I call SWP, Sergeant Willie Pete, my favorite curmudgeon, my favorite black curmudgeon. And every time I hear him speak on a video, I get a kick out of it. He has no favorites. He gets on black men, black women, the black church, white men, white women, all equally. He's a sort of the irascible kind of character that it just trips me out. But to get to the point of the fact, what he complains about, why black men and women act the way they do, especially in this particular kind of environment that we're in. He rightfully complains about black people, black men not doing or not building a patriarchy, quote unquote, and black women not following the black man and getting together with him and following his program so that you can build, that you can make a stronger black community. And he's constantly struggling for answers. But where is he looking for his answers? He's looking for his answers on YouTube. He's looking for his answers on Facebook. He's asking all the people, talking to all the people that really don't have the answers. When you talk to the sheep don't know where they're going or even where they're at. All the sheep knows is that they're following one another. And they complain whether there's enough grass in the spot where they're at. And maybe the white sheep has more grass than the black sheep. But you can't figure things out looking from the perspective of a sheep. You have to talk to the shepherd because the shepherd has the overview. And that's exactly what we're not doing. That's exactly what he's not doing. I was just looking at a Stratford video and they're talking about, I was watching a video by Stratford and they were talking about the difference between strategic analysis and tactical analysis. Strategic analysis deals with the framework, the whole entire picture, and how it's interconnected and how the puzzle fits together on a broad perspective. And a tactical analysis deals with the piece or the incident in itself. While all the things that SWP talks about look very different from one event to another, but when you look at them, when you look at them from a tactical standpoint, when you look at them from a strategic standpoint, you start to understand why these events happen the way they happen and where they fit in the overall scheme. And then you can start to predict what will happen in the future. But all the answers don't lie at the tactical level. The answers lie in a strategic level.
What we do in strategic forecasting is take a look at the broad geopolitical picture, and we build it around a theory that's not quite geopolitics, but kind of derives from it.
A framework.
A framework. But it's a framework that both is explanatory and predictive. It explains why certain countries are doing the things they do. It explains what they're going to be doing in the future. Tactical intelligence really deals with the event as it occurs. It also is explanatory.
The why. Why, not the how.
We're far more interested in why someone planted that bomb. We're far more interested in the question of whether a banking crisis is going to evolve than we are in telling the particular story of what happened in that spot. So if you look at geopolitics as the broad framework of what is happening in the world, it acts itself out tactically. The tactical understanding feeds the geopolitical framework guides the tactical understanding. And what's really important is that while it appears to be very different approaches, In fact, it's part of the same system approach.
And I know you've said this to us before, that if you look at this in a context of like a picture frame, the geopolitical analysis would be that frame, and perhaps the tactical analysis would be the pieces of that puzzle that would fit into that matrix.
What you just heard was George Friedman talk about the difference between strategic analysis and tactical analysis. What black folks have been doing, especially in the black community lately, have been engaging in talking about tactical analysis, talking about the events. So we discuss male-female dynamics, when we discuss colorism, interracial marriages and relationships, problems in the black family. See, all those things are tactical. Those are events that happen within the framework. And we're talking about the different puzzle pieces. We're not talking about the framework. So if we start looking at the framework, the frame, instead of the pieces, we start to get a better picture. And when we get a better picture, we have a better idea of how to attack the particular problems. Because like he says, when we look at it from a tactical analysis or a tactical standpoint, all the different entities and different problems look very different. They all look separate. But when we look at it from a strategic analysis, from the framework, we see that all the problems that we talk about spring from the same source. And when we know that, we go to the source and we find the answers instead of trying to patch up the problem. Now, what is the framework? There's three major ones, and I'll give them to you. Let me give you three major ones. The first thing is the biology, how male and female work together as a biological entity. They have different objectives biologically. They see the world differently biologically. And that dynamic is the first frame. That is the larger frame. In our instance, the second frame that we can look at that's major is Western civilization in itself. And understanding Western civilization. Western civilization is not isolated to just the United States and Europe. It's actually a global civilization now. And how these pieces fit together and the struggles between the different cultures within Western civilization give us a look at why certain countries, and our country in particular, does certain things and promotes certain policies. The last frame, which is major for the last couple hundred years, is the Industrial Revolution and how it has had an effect on the human race. And it being invented, a child of the Western civilization, how it affects Western civilization and its policies, and how those policies are spread throughout the world, throughout the rest of the civilization. To get a fair understanding of any particular problem, you have to look at that problem from those three frameworks. If you don't look at it from those three frameworks, then the particular problem is going to confuse you because you're not going to the source. So this is the first conversation, so to speak, a YouTube conversation that I'm going to engage with Sergeant Willie Pete. And I'm going to start listening to his videos, and I'm started taking what he talks about, and I'm going to look at it from one of those three frameworks and start going to the source and see if we can get a handle on the problems that he discusses. Because a lot of things that he discusses, a lot of problems that he's frustrated with, comes from the lack of understanding of the framework, the strategic framework that piece exists in. Looking at that piece by itself doesn't make sense because you don't know where it fits in. If you don't know where it fits in, you don't know why that piece exists. So like I said, this is the first one, and I'm going to try to make it a regular habit of actually doing this, because my favorite curmudgeon, his heart is in the right place. He's knocking on the right doors, but the thing is, he doesn't have the right key to enter it. And then when he enters, he doesn't have a flashlight to put a spotlight on it so he can understand the problem. So with that, I'm going to close this video out, and I'm going to talk to folks about this in a future one.